Well, good morning, everybody. On this Tuesday morning, we're going to start off in the same spot we did on Monday with the radar imagery out of parts of central Nebraska. So this is the Grand Island radar. It's located right here near Blue Hill. And this time, we're not going to be looking at the birds or the wind turbines, but instead we're going to look at these echoes right here. Because what you're seeing here are echoes, again, from non-meteorological targets. This is actually from smoke. And we had multiple wildfires that broke out yesterday across the plains under very strong winds. And it's been so dry in parts of the plains as of late, there was plenty of fuel for these fires. So I was going to have a talk about it. I'm going to show you first my Twitter feed. I follow Sarah from Colorado State. Fantastic follow. You should do this. Being that it's from Colorado State, I'd like to show you the imagery here they grabbed from GOES. Now, as we zoom in here on that same fire, what I love about this animation is you can actually see the burn scar that goes across the fields here. And I know that there were numerous farmers out yesterday working to prevent the spread of these fires, hauling equipment everywhere they possibly could to kind of make a break in these fires. And it wasn't just here in Nebraska that we saw them. If I kind of just show you the whole of the central part of the United States here, yesterday, this was the fire that we just mentioned. And there was another one here in northern Texas, which it's hard to see through the cloud cover. But when the sun sets and the infrared takes over, you can see the very large heat signatures from these fires that are down here in parts of northern Texas. So extremely rough day in terms of wind speed and the spread of wildfires in parts of the central plains of the United States. We also got quite hot yesterday compared to average. I saw numerous locations breaking into the 80s in the midsection of the country. And as you watch this play over and over, this is going to be a 24-hour loop over the last 24 hours. Just look down here at the bottom. This particular symbol means is tying or breaking a monthly record high. The one above it is breaking a daily record high. And as this resets again, you're going to watch one more time just look at all these highs that were broken. I know it's kind of quick there. It's just an animated GIF. But coolweather.com, coolwx.com is a great place to go to see these particular animations. Now, the temperatures are about to change in a big way. Already early this morning, you can find the front as easy as anybody here. Look at that. We have temperatures that have dropped off in some places almost 50 degrees behind this front in parts of Montana. And while we're still dealing with a lot of that warm, moist air that's out ahead of this system, temperatures this morning are 20 to 30 degrees warmer than they were yesterday morning. So this is a highly, I want to call it a highly amplified system, but it's really more about contrast rather than amplification. It's the system that's coming after this one that's highly amplified in its flow. This has just got a pretty powerful front that's going to rip through. Now, early this morning on radar, this is a radar animation I make using MRMS data. So I use their flag for precipitation type in it so we can color code according to snow. And you can see here rolling across parts of the Red River of the North, stretching all the way back to Rapid City. And getting down into this part of Wyoming and along the Front Range, we have snow this morning. We have the rain that's moving through parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. But later on today, a lot of the attention is going to be given to this system as it opens up right here in parts of the eastern and central Corn Belt. So what do we have today? We have the high wind warning, high wind advisories stretching across all of these states. This is red flag warning. This is high wind warning down here. Sorry, a lot of wind issues. Winter storm warning, winter storm advisory, wind chill warning. Look at that quick behind the backside of this. We have got then going over to the west, because remember, the west still has 3 more systems that are going to hit in the next 10 days. We've already got the winter storm watches out for a big area, plus the wind events that are expected here in the Great Basin, getting up toward Oregon as well. So pretty colorful and active map, and I don't expect it to change anytime soon. We can also see that in New England, we've got the high wind watches here as well. All right, with that as a setup, let's kind of get into this. Storm Prediction Center today is identifying a pretty large area from Missouri along parts of the Mississippi here, getting over to the Ohio, and then all of Indiana, Ohio, and parts of southern Michigan. So big area underneath there, a slight risk. Now, this has been an extremely challenging forecast for a lot of us. And I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about why. I think a lot of this is having to do with the placement of some of the frontal boundaries. Now, when we look at each one of the models and try to understand where the moisture is going to be, this is, I think, one of the more difficult parts of this forecast. It's fast. Remember, we talked about how fast this system was going to move, and therefore the timing and placement of the fronts, along with the best instability, where the wind shear is going to be, it's going to have to hit just perfect. And the models have been tossing out new solutions onto where that's going to be in every single run. So I'm sorry to say this, but I could tell you everything I know about it, but the reality of it is that I will be nowcasting this system all day long. Now, what I left this on is a look at the moisture this evening at 6 p.m. So this is a dew point temperature map. And I got a question the other day. I brought up a concept called the dry line. Now, if you're down in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, coming out of Colorado, New Mexico, the dry line is something that's a frontal boundary that all of us are familiar with in this area. But in other parts of the country, we aren't. So let's take just a moment to explain it. This is a dew point map. And do you see the high contrast right here on this line? So what's interesting about that line right there is that if you cross that line, all you measure is a difference in dew point, not a difference in temperature. That's what the dry line is. Now, back here is the main cold front. Right? So there's the cold frontal boundary. Actually stretches all up to the low, which will be in the UP of Michigan. Now, the point behind finding the dry line is this, and this may not make intuitive sense at first, but if we have air that has the same temperature, but part of that air, like the air that's on this side of the dry line, the moist side, has more water vapor in it, it is actually less dense than the drier air at the same temperature on the backside. Now, you might be asking why that is the case. Well, if you were to replace or displace regular air, mostly nitrogen and oxygen, right? And replace that with water vapor, which is H2O, you're taking dry air, which has a molecular weight of about 29 grams per mole, and you're replacing it with water vapor, which has a molecular weight of 18 grams per mole. So the net effect of putting more water vapor into the atmosphere is to reduce its density. Okay, so that is why whenever we see dry line boundaries, we tend to have the ability to toss the air up more easily on the more moist side, the less dense side. So the dry air, even though it's the same temperature, is more dense and undercuts, creating a front. Now, it's much easier to understand with cold air. We understand that cold air is more dense. You can put more air molecules when they're not moving as fast. Okay, I'm talking about their molecular motion, put more of them inside the same volume. I think a lot of us understand cold air is more dense, but the whole concept of moist air being less dense than dry air at the same temperature is a bit tricky to understand. All right, all of that is to tell you, I am unsure about this piece right here. We've been discussing this little dry line bulge coming through Illinois and the pace at which it goes across Illinois and Indiana, and what's going on the back side of this here where the moist air continues to live. So let me take my drawing off there so you can see it. What I'm curious about is, do we get triple point initiation, I don't know, right there? Let me take that arrow off there and just highlight it for you. This is now an area that I yesterday wouldn't have thought about, but today I kind of am. Remember yesterday I was like, all right, I think it's going to be a broader area here. Now that doesn't take that area out of contention, nor do we not see storms blowing down this whole line here. But this is what we're really struggling with. Now watch. Let's get beyond this system. So it rolls east. That's all the dry air. This is not, remember, this is dew point temperature. That's all the dry air that comes in behind it. And then by next Thursday, or this Thursday into Friday, already we start to open the Gulf of Mexico right back up for the system that is now going to be coming out of the Rocky Mountains on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th. It's going to have plenty of moisture to work with, and then dry air comes in behind that one again, and that's just going to be the loop we're going to be on repeat for a while. Okay, so let's come back to see what the models are suggesting. This is a simulated radar reflectivity forecast from the High Resolution Rapid Refresh, and it's the whole country because I want to see the whole system. Now, we watched the rain moving through parts of eastern Kentucky, Tennessee to West Virginia, North Carolina this morning. Now, that snow that's in the Red River Valley of the North spreads into Ontario. And then here we go. This is 5 o'clock tonight, getting into 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. And did you see where the initiation was in the HRRR? Now, we do not rely on a single model, but I want to know if there's any consistency in the models at initiating storms, maybe closer to the Quad Cities, having them roll between Madison and Chicago, and then later in the evening watching storms pop farther to the south and probably farther to the east. So this is tonight at 9 p.m., and then we get into early Wednesday morning. That's the newest update because I'm recording this before the 12Z HRRR is out. That's what I've got for you tonight and tomorrow from one model. Let's switch over and show you the NAM. Now, in the NAM, I'm not going to show you simulated radar reflectivity. I'm going to show you precipitation type and intensity. So let's get through this morning. Watch that snow spread. Look how strong these winds are. This is 2 o'clock this afternoon. Let's get to 5 o'clock. The model, the NAM, is also initializing storms here. Now, what I don't remember, I apologize for this. I need to go look this up. Just thought about it. These two models, the NAM and the HER, even though they're at different resolution and they're designed differently, they may use the same initialization scheme. I don't know if they do or don't. I have to look that up. But if they do, maybe that's part of the reason why they both kick off a storm in Davenport later today. And then that storm blows up as it moves towards Chicagoland. And then we see later on in the overnight hours all of the complexes of storms we expect to show up in this vicinity. Now, with the NAM, you can also see how rapidly we convert this over to snow. The temperatures plummet behind this system, very windy. And now we can also look out farther in the NAM. The high-resolution rapid refresh model, HER, only goes out 36 hours. This one goes out 60. So if we just keep playing, we see that pushing into New England. So I'll be in Boston for this. I wonder if I'll be able to fly home over that. And that frontal boundary slips on through by Wednesday night, and it's out. Now remember, our lakes are still largely unfrozen. There's a lot of cold air, so it's a bit rare, but there's the chance of lake effect snow in late February. We don't often see this along the Great Lakes. Now, that is not to ignore what's coming in the west and what is about to be born down here in New Mexico and Texas and slide across the southern U.S. That's just the first system. Our second one is here, and by Thursday morning, getting to Thursday midday, it spins out of New Mexico across the panhandles, and we're going to watch for this high pressure cell to slide east so that it can open the Gulf and supply more moisture as this low gets over here and moves its way into the southeast. And as all that happens, system number 3 hits the northwest and 4 is lined up behind that. And I'm going to show you the snowfall amounts I'm expecting for the west in just a few moments. All right, importance of all of this. The northwest has several systems lined up that will help correct some of the moisture problems we've experienced, not just over the last 30 days, but over the last 90 days. Got to improve that. The second low, the one that's coming out here, I just mentioned a moment ago, hitting parts of New Mexico, possibly into sections of West Texas, and it moves south. And the thing I like about that is it's going to hit some of this area with better moisture. It's going to be farther to the east. It's not going to hit this central plains area, but it's going to be helping out in this region. You might be going, how in the world are we having all these fires when it's been so wet in parts of Colorado and Nebraska, excuse me? Well, remember, a lot of this moisture wasn't in the last week. It was 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And so this is the 30-day map. We're not accounting for that. And a lot of this has had very hot temperatures, high winds, high evaporation rates, and that moisture is gone. And that's what you see here. Now, what I'm most concerned about is this whole area in through here. In the near term, I'm talking about the remainder of February, beginning of March, not seeing the kind of moisture return I want. The systems are too fast. And I know there's a lot of very anxious people in the Corn Belt. I see them all the time because I live in the Corn Belt. And these are some holes that need undone. That is a 30-day percent of normal precipitation map. Now, that's not to ignore the Carolinas, which also need it. It's not to ignore New England. I just see better chances for these areas going forward. And I'm a bit concerned about this area as we look at the beginning of March. All right. Next 10 days, this is what I see, right? So I told you, better moisture coming into the west. Look at this coming through the Canadian prairie. Look what we have coming up the East Coast here. My worry is that this area is kind of the dry spot in the country. All right, that's what I'm kind of referencing here. I want to let you know, too, that when we look at the GFS versus the European model lately has maintained better skill scores at predicting the trough ridge pattern. The GFS kind of fell off the last couple of days, and we just need to watch that difference to see if the models both regain their higher skill scores or if they fall off again. I want to keep an eye on that. But when you watch this next animation, understand that the model on the right, the European, has the better skill score at initializing the position of the troughs and ridges in the model. The GFS is lower. Okay, so let's go have a look at all of them. Here we go. This is through Tuesday into Wednesday here. We watch that system roll east in the models. Take note that the GFS is faster now than the European. That's common. Next system comes out of New Mexico while we see one hitting the Pacific Northwest. So watch both of them if you can. This is now Thursday morning at 6 a.m., midday Thursday evening. Now, did you notice it kind of falls apart here in the models? But watch, as the high pressure gets off the Carolina coast, we open the Gulf back up, more rain comes to the lower Mississippi River Valley, and then that system has more moisture to work with over the southeast. So I like that. Now, as that system moves east, okay, there we go, our attention now pulls back to the west. So can I show you in the west again, starting on early Friday morning, Friday at midnight. This is 6 a.m. Friday, getting into noon Friday, Friday evening, early Saturday morning. Look how slow that low is. You say, why is it so slow? Well, the tilt on this trough is negative, which means the trough tilts back to the west with with latitude. So this system is going to have more of a trajectory like that than the previous one, which went like this across the country. So watch. This is Sunday, getting into Monday. See it curling up there into Manitoba and Ontario? Look what follows behind it. See, it leaves a front right in through here. And that just opens up and pulls more moisture into this area. And again, I'm trusting more the European on this solution. That's a slower moving system. It is still quite windy, and it's going to have snow on the backside and the risk of ice in parts of Ontario, maybe clipping the Red River of the North as well in parts of Manitoba. But I'm rocking back and forth over your upcoming weekend. That's what you're looking at here. All right, that takes you out a full week. So let's go have a look at the models and how much they're predicting. Here we are through Friday into Saturday and Sunday. We're going to park this right there at 168 hours. That's your 7-day forecast from the high-resolution European model. This is the GFS. Now, there is overall good synoptic placement of these next few lows, but the model differences are pretty large. Like, take a look down here in parts of the southeast. So Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, this area, the GFS is substantially wetter over the next 7 days than the European model is. The European's wetter down in Florida and Georgia. It's also wetter in some places across the West Coast. And that means we need to look at the snow. So the European model, watch this. Here's snowfall through Friday into Saturday and Sunday. We're going to play this out there 1 full week. That's 1 week out. Look at these snows through the Canadian prairie. Look at the snow right now happening in this area. Could get some light snow following, some lake effect, but the western mountain ranges, the Cascades, the Klamath Mountains, getting down here into the Sierra Nevada, the Northern Rockies. I can't wait. Every Friday I like to show you like a recap, like, hey, here's where we stand with all these things. I can't wait to see what this looks like. Not this Friday, but next Friday. How much did we recover overall? And the GFS is right there with it. Now you notice the GFS, when it brings through that last system, behind the front wants to drop some snow in these areas. We need to take this with a bit of a grain of salt, okay? So what we always do is we go to the ensembles. This is the chance over the next 10 days of 1 inch. This is the chance of 3 inches of snow. So this is mostly happening now. This is to come, and the west is just going to pile it up. That's the chance of 6 inches in the next 10 days. Here's the chance of a foot, 18 inches, 24 inches, 36 inches, 40. That's 4 feet. Look at this. I love to see that snow in the Sierra Nevada and in the Cascades this time of year. On the drier side of it, we just come back to that same tone. That's the area I'm worried about with these next few systems. This is the probability over the next 10 days of staying under 1/10 of an inch according to the European ensemble. This is the probability of staying under 1/2 inch. New model run. Let's get you out there. 10 days. There you go. That's the probability of staying under 1/2 inch. So my level of concern is going up for the plains and the western Corn Belt right now. And that concern can be undone in a heartbeat if the pattern reorients itself to slow a system down coming out of Colorado. I mean, that's all it takes. We need probably 3 of those between now and mid-April to start to work against any sort of major drought building concerns in the midsection of the country. Now, on the wetter side of this is the chance, darn it, sorry, that switched again on me. This is the chance over the next 10 days of getting 1 inch of liquid equivalent. And here's 2 inches. So yeah, now we're seeing the southeast, parts of the East Coast, and then the West Coast. That's the chance of getting 4 inches. It might as well go up to 8. We have a few spots in here that could possibly pick up that much moisture. All right, what's the pattern doing after that? It loves to just stay in this reset mode. This is through March 6th. And 7th, here comes system number 4 rolling through. And then we go past that to the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. There's system number 5 coming through. We're just kind of pinwheeling troughs across the country. And it's all based off of the lower pressure here, the higher heights here, and the fact that it's been so cold in Alaska. That's your initiation point. All right, what is this doing overall? Well, it's increasing the risk of really heavy precipitation, not only on the West Coast at times, but also here in the southeast. And if we look out there, I wanted to show you the week too. Let's go to my site, agweather.com. I want to go to the report one. So in my I send out a weekly report. Do you all know about this? You can have it for free. Just go to agweather.com and you can click right here and sign up for it. But then in that, I give you this link, and it's pretty simple, but I just kind of try to summarize maps. And I have all of the week 2 precipitation anomalies here. So it's agweather.com/national_report. That's all it is. So week 2 CPC, week 2 European, week 2 GFS. See how wet it is down there? And that's why we see this. Okay. Lot of troughs. That's really the story in the near term. Is that going to change at some point? I'll answer that in a second. But I want to show you this. Over the last 30 days, we have had extremely mild air across North America. And there's just incredibly a lot of warmth tucked into this pattern. And what's making me concerned is that we've got already across a large section of the country since the beginning of February, a pretty sizable jump on the start of the, of spring, honestly. And what I'm showing you here is that we've got several locations that have already picked up in excess of 50 to some places almost 80 GDDs since February. Now that is not just 80 in total, that's 80 on top of average. And anytime we start to see a February warm-up like this, we remember, I live in Illinois. So Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska, like this area and through here, our typical last frost date is mid to late April. And we can have May frost in here. So imagine what that means down farther to the south, right? It's earlier that we have our last frost, but already in February, all this mild weather has me concerned about any risk of Arctic air coming back. And if it hits after we've had bloom, if it hits after we've had just anything emerging, we could have a big kill on certain crops. And I want you to know that I'm worried about it. That's all. Now in the West, we're way behind and we're not going to pick up anytime soon. If you just look today, I just want to show you, this is what the temperatures are today. So just to add, forgive me, this is tomorrow morning. I got to get my ducks in a row. Yesterday, 80 degrees in Lincoln. Tomorrow morning, 14. And that's just one spot to look at here. So huge swings in temperatures behind this front. So again, that's tomorrow morning. I'm sorry. This is now today. Tuesday's highs. Watch the temperature change. That's Wednesday. So where I live, outside of Champaign, 76 today for a high, 32 tomorrow. And it's even greater in that change farther to the north. In fact, this is white because we went off my color bar, meaning that today, this region will be more than 40 degrees warmer than its climatological average. And then tomorrow it's back to being 10 to 15 degrees colder than that. So that's a good 60-degree swing in temperatures in that area. All right, so this is max temperatures on Thursday, getting into Friday. Already the warmth comes back. But I mentioned California, we're not breaking away from this. And that's what the day 5 through 10 and day 10 through 15 pattern continues to show. So how long do we stay in this configuration with the jet? That's the big question. I want to give you a little bit of thought I'm having this week about it by first off mentioning we're finally getting the MJO away from here. Now remember, end of January, beginning of February, it lived here. And then it broke into null space for most of the rest of February. And we had questions as to where it was going to come out. Well, we now know it's coming out in phase 3, and it's going to move here through phase 4 and 5. Now, as it does that, I'm going to let you know something. I am using the historical analogs to when that happens without El Nino now. Now, El Nino's still there, but I don't believe the atmosphere is still fully behaving with strong westerly wind bursts. So I'm going to use this. And what I see here overall is that this would favor some sort of subtropical jet, some sort of polar jet, and ridging that starts off here and moves east, which means as we move through phases 4 and 5, we expect to see a lot of the same. But I don't think that hangs on to the end of the month. I think by the end of the month, we see this sliding all the way here, maybe into phase 6 and 7, and that's going to give us a different look. And why that's important is this. You see, today, where our highest not our highest, but our most effective rising motion is, it's right here in phase 2. But as you look, see the blue-greens? They slide toward phases 6 and 7 over the next 15 days. And that's a pretty quick progression of the MJO, but it is something to be thinking about. And if it slides around there quickly, we should get a response out of this at the end of the month of March. And that should put us back over into a different regime Not cold west, warm east, but possibly displacing that. So can I show you what the European model's done in response? This is the next 7 days. This is getting toward the middle of the month. All right, now watch. This would be about the time period the MJO starts to make its move out of phases 4 and 5 and goes over to 6, 7, maybe 8. And you see how the model's kind of tossing cooler air back in. Now that's the end of March. Now understand something. At the end of March, between now and the end of March, like this midsection of the country should gain another hour of daylight and much, much steeper sun angles. So to be cooler than average here at the end of March is not, I'm not worried about massive Arctic blasts coming in. I just need you to know that we could go back over into this regime, and that is going to be top of mind for me going forward. I need to, actually funny, you can't see me, but I'm pointing at my screen right now saying this is top of mind for me. I'm concerned about what this might mean later as we get into the month of the end of the month of March. All right, all of that is to say that that same transition will likely impact here as well. Now, I think that most of March gets us into drier regime in this part of like Mato Grosso, Goiás, Mato Grosso do Sul, while we stay wetter in northern Argentina, wetter in the northeast. It's kind of consistent with this. Do you see this drier area? Where's that kind of punching in? You know, it's sitting, it's kind of coming across the map like that. All right. If the MJO though slides over to 7 and 8, that means the end of March. This will probably go away. What we want to know is, so therefore, the most important thing is to see if the MJO, because I think it's still the most dominant teleconnection, comes around like that and keeps going. If it does keep going, this is a major, major signal for Brazil that goes against what I've been saying for a while. I've been saying I think we get into a dry April, right? If it sweeps all the way over here by the beginning of April, then that's not a dry signal. But if it does this, which it can do, then we go right into that dry risk in April for Brazil's main growing areas for safrinha crops. So all that's ahead of us. I'm going to keep analyzing it. We'll keep talking about it this week. Appreciate you hanging around with me this morning, and we'll give you another video tomorrow. Thanks.